Welcome to the Good Life Agoura Hills podcast. Join us each month as we discuss important city projects, programs, and initiatives with the community. We appreciate your support and thank you for tuning in.
Hey, what's going on, Agoura Hills? And welcome to another episode of your favorite podcast, The Good Life Agoura Hills. I'm Ramiro Adeva, your Assistant City Manager. So now let me talk about this. When you think of Agoura Hills, what is the essence of our city? You think about sustainability. You think about preserving our environment. You think about preserving our natural resources. All of that is at the core of who we are as a city, which is the reason why I'm just so excited about our special guest today. So he is in charge of an organization that is the nation leader in delivering 100% renewable energy. I believe it's an organization that's the fourth largest electricity provider in the state of California. I like to think of this organization as a lean, clean, green machine, and he's at the head of it. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring him out here. I want you to please give the warmest podcast welcome to our special guest today. He is the CEO of the Clean Power Alliance. Make some noise for Ted Bardacke. Let's go, everybody. There we go. Ted, how's it going, buddy?
Really good. Thanks for having me. So excited to be out here in Agoura Hills.
Well, we appreciate you taking the time. I know that your calendar gets very full, and so the fact that you take some time to talk to myself and to talk to our audience, we very much appreciate it.
Well, we have, thousands of customers who get 100% renewable energy from Clean Power Alliance here in Agoura Hills, so we're a very customer-focused organization, and so it's my pleasure to be here.
Awesome. We'd love to first hear about you. A little bit, Ted, about your journey to be where you are today, and really if you could describe maybe what your role is as a CEO of the Clean Power Alliance, that'd be great.
Great. Well, thanks for giving me that opportunity. So I think I'll start with CPA and then talk about how a little bit of my background prepared me for this role. So Clean Power Alliance, we are, as you mentioned, the largest provider of green energy in the nation. And it was formed just 6 years ago by a group of cities in LA and Ventura counties. And we have over 1 million customers, and we provide clean power at competitive rates. What this means in terms of my role is I work with our 35-member board of directors, all local elected officials from the cities and counties that are part of our organization, to really provide direction and set the course for how we can really rapidly decarbonize the electricity system here in Southern California. Now that is complicated. Working with a large board is complicated. Elected officials who have to directly respond to their constituents, but they also have policy goals. But it also means knowing the intricacies of a extremely complicated business. And I think part of some of the questions that people may have are not due to the fact that they don't know, but more due to the fact that electricity is a complicated business. We like to think that it's simple because we just turn on the switch and the lights turn on. But behind that is something that is always changing, always dynamic, particularly in this time that we're trying to decarbonize. So there's a lot of business work that has to be done because we are a business that we're a public agency, but we operate like a business because we operate in a competitive market, and we're also have these policy goals. So my background that I brought to this before I was CEO, and I'm the founding CEO and employee number one, and that's so we've lived the startup life for some years now, me and my family and my staff. But prior to that, I was director of infrastructure for the city of Los Angeles, working directly for then Mayor Eric Garcetti, looking after not only the power and electricity system in Los Angeles, but also the water and wastewater and street cleaning and street trees and everything that had to do with both electricity, water, and public works. Areas under my purview was about 14,000 employees, and and several $1 billion of annual budget. So now I was mostly on the policy direction, not in the operational stuff day to day. Prior to that, I spent 10 years in the nonprofit sector, mostly consulting with cities who wanted to do sustainability or climate action or green building plans. I know here in Agoura Hills a few years ago, you passed a climate action plan. That was great work. I used to consult with cities on that, and also with affordable housing developers who were wanting to incorporate green building and renewable energy into those. I helped develop the first net zero energy affordable housing units in California, down in San Diego. And then prior to that, I had a career for about 10 years as a foreign correspondent for the Financial Times, based both in Mexico City and in Bangkok. So I was 5 years in Mexico City and 5 years in Bangkok, which brought a perspective because it's a financial publication. I know a lot about development, private sector financing, which is really directly applicable to what we do at Clean Power Alliance. So I've got this communications background, directly working with cities, directly working with local elected officials, and understand the operations of the electricity sector.
Well, you're the man, the subject matter expert. That's why, we've got you on the show, and I feel so honored that you're here. Can you talk a little bit about the need, Ted, for the CPA, right? These, something as massive as the CPA doesn't start unless there's something to spark it, right? So can you talk about the genesis of the CPA? Why was it needed to be formed?
Yeah. So I think there's two real things that were sort of the spur. The first was that in our area, in most areas before CPA and organizations like it came along, there was no choice in the electricity sector. You called Edison, you got hooked up, you got both your service, the lines, the wires, the meter reading, the billing, all of that from SCE. You also got your electrons from SCE. And so if you wanted to have a choice, you didn't have a choice. And Edison offered a variety of options, but it was all within the construct of that one entity that is regulated by the California Public Utilities Commission. So most of the decisions about rates and procurement and what was offered to customers was made in San Francisco by 5 commissioners appointed by the governor. So pretty distant governance structure, and it was a monopoly. The second thing was, I think that many cities in Southern California, when they did their climate action plans, they didn't really have a lot to do when it came to reducing emissions from the electricity sector, because they only had one option, and they could maybe put up some solar or but those emissions were locked in based on the pace of decarbonization that Edison would take. So I think there was a moment when cities got together and say, we want to offer our customers choice, and some of those choices we want to offer should be quicker, more responsive to the moment around climate change that we have. And so CPA came along and said, yes, we can offer choices. We can offer choices that are really determined by our local communities through their local elected officials. So a governance structure that's much closer to the customer, and that offers choices that really address, one of the existential crises of our times, which is climate change.
And Ted, you mentioned the word choice, right? And I think that it'd be great if we could clarify. So there's the term that gets thrown out there a lot that has that in it. It's the community choice aggregate or aggregation,
yes.
Right? So community choice aggregation, CCAs. Could you talk a little bit about the difference maybe between community choice aggregation and what we hear oftentimes with investor-owned utilities?
Yeah, so it's a great question, and I think this is where it starts to get complicated. So I want to just acknowledge to everyone out there, I understand understand your pain. And when you look at that bill, it can be very, very complicated. So let me try to break it down a little bit. So an investor-owned utility is in business in California to provide the lines and the wires and all of the infrastructure necessary to deliver electrons to your home or business. They're a for-profit organization. They have to respond to shareholders, but because they're a monopoly for that service, the rates that they charge are ultimately authorized by the California Public Utilities Commission. Now, the Edison, in this case, the investor-owned utility, also can provide the actual electrons. And until we came along, that's what they were doing. A CCA comes along and says, we are going to use the lines and the wires and the infrastructure to deliver electrons, but we're going to provide an alternative or a choice to the customer to say, you could get your electrons with a different level of greenness to the electrons at a different price. Sometimes that price is cheaper, sometimes that price is more expensive, but we're going to give you an array of choices. So we're going to do it as a public entity that is not profit driven and is governed by, again, our locally elected board of directors. So there's a fundamental difference in terms of A, the services we provide, B, what's driving us, is there a profit motive or not, and third, who makes the decisions. And so we're quite different, but one thing I want to make sure that the folks listening or watching make clear is that even if you're a Clean Power Alliance customer and you're getting the electrons that we're putting on the grid on your behalf, you still remain a customer of Southern California Edison for those lines and wires. There's no way to get out of that system. So in our sense, we both compete with Edison to provide green electrons at an affordable price and partner with Edison to deliver those electrons to your home or business.
So Ted, that's what customers are seeing on their bill then. So, because we do get sometimes, you'll have customers or residents in this case, let's say, having questions about, man, I don't know how to read my bill. I hear about the CPA, I hear that we're in it, and then they're just confused as to, like, well, if I'm paying now into CPA, am I also paying into Edison? The answer to what, as I understood it, is yes, but you got to understand like how that breakdown works. If you're paying into the CPA, there's the electrons that you're paying for there, and then there's the infrastructure component, which is the Edison piece of your bill. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. If you look at if you're a Clean Power Alliance customer today, and you look at your bill, you'll see that there are two line items on the bill. There's what's called a delivery charge, and that goes to Edison. And then there's what's called a generation charge, and that's what goes to CPA. If you, before CPA, or if you were getting both your delivery and generation from Edison, you would still have two line items on your bill. They are separate charges. So what we do is when you're a Clean Power Alliance customer, the Edison generation charge goes away and the CPA generation charge comes on. That delivery charge, that Edison charge that doesn't fluctuate by customer, remains. So we're not a new charge on your bill, we're just a new name of who's getting that generation charge.
Okay, no, that's perfect. That's great clarification. Thank you for doing that. So now you're a CPA customer,
Yep.
and there are different levels, right? And so I think that folks have talked about, you hear clean, you hear lean,
Yep.
and you also hear green.
That's right.
You hear different percentages, 40%, 50%, 100%. Can we provide some clarification on the differences there, what that means to have lean versus clean versus green? And then really, do communities have a choice on which level of energy they're at? That's
a great question, and there's actually two questions embedded in there. So let me talk about the three Clean Power Alliance rate products, and then talk about what the community has determined. So at the individual customer level, we offer 3 basic rate plans: lean power, clean power, and 100% green power. They come at different price points, and going back to the question of the Edison charge on your bill doesn't change whether you're getting lean power, clean power, or 100% green power. So that charge is fixed. That's for every customer. It's equal no matter what. So then in our 3 rate products, lean power is the least expensive. It also has the lowest amount of renewable or carbon-free energy in it. Clean power is the middle tier, and it's got 50% carbon-free with a mix of renewable energy and large hydropower. And then the 100% green product, our premium product, the most expensive, and that's 100% renewable energy, 100% carbon-free. So you could think of it like a cell phone plan or a cable plan or something like that, that the more you pay, the more you get. And what's interesting is that I'll say 2 things about those price points. The difference between the lowest price, the lean power, and the most expensive, 100% green power, is actually not that much. It fluctuates year to year, but usually it's between 4 and 5% more expensive, the lowest tier to the highest tier, and then obviously the middle tier falls somewhere in the middle. So for a typical customer, it's between $3 and $5 a month for every $100 on your electricity bill. So for many people, find that an affordable way to contribute in their own personal way to the decarbonization of the electricity system.
Can I ask you one thing on that also, Ted? So you made me think of this question when you're saying that. So when those price points that you talked about for the 3 different categories, are you able to give some perspective on what those would be in comparison to Edison? If the customer out there is kind of sitting, okay, there's lean, there's green, and there's clean. But if I'm sitting there making a choice as a customer and I'm trying to decide whether or not I want my electrons through the CPA or if I want my electrons through Edison, that price point, we talked about really how different it is to go from lean to green, but how about when you throw Edison into that picture?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So right now, our lean power rate, our cheapest rate, is about 2% less than Edison. Our clean power rate is about 1% less than Edison, and our 100% green is about 3% more than Edison. Now, we're going through a rate setting process right now. I think those comparisons will change a little bit. We're probably looking at somewhere around 1% cheaper for lean, maybe parity for the clean, and 4 to 5% more expensive for the 100% green. Again, it fluctuates, but it stays within those norms of all products being somewhere between 2% less expensive and 4 to 5% more expensive. Again, the range is not huge. The other thing I'll note, and this is very important because I know people's bills are going up, and they've been going up, outpacing the rate of inflation for several years now. Most of that increase is coming on the delivery side of the bill. The bill that everybody, the part of the bill that everybody gets charged equally. And just as an example, when we started Clean Power Alliance and we started serving customers here in Agoura Hills in 2019, the delivery charge, the one that goes to Edison, was about half of the bill. And the generation charge, the one that goes to us, was the other half. So it's about 50-50. Your bill today is about 2/3 delivery and about 1/3 generation. So even though all the rates have been going up, the rates that that Edison is charging on the delivery side has been going up much faster.
Okay, all right. Can I ask you a question on that too? When we say 40%, you hear those percentages, 40%, 50%, it begs the question on the back end of what's the difference, right? So if you've got 40%, let's just say on the lean side of things, the other 60% is coming from other energy sources that are not renewable?
It's what it's called unspecified power. And so it's a mix of what's out there on the grid that we can't necessarily identify. It's mostly natural gas.
Okay.
And so that would be the other 60%.
Okay. Can I ask you this also? So a customer's sitting there and they're deciding on these factors as to where they go, right? They'll say, okay, I'm going to decide if I want to go lean, clean, or green. But when they're making that decision about where they are, you mentioned how obviously there's each level, I'll say, is a different price, different price point. So if someone's sitting there and they're saying, I can pick either lean or clean and be below the price point if I'm looking at Edison as the example, or I can pay a little bit more and get 100% renewable, I got to ask the question for the customers, like what factors should they be considering as to why they should stick with 100% renewable?
Yeah, so there is a direct connection between the rate that someone's on. If they're on 100% renewable energy, we are obligated to go out and put that much energy, that much renewable energy on the grid. So there is a direct connection between what the customer chooses and how much greenhouse gas emissions are emitted in the state of California to generate electricity. So it really is, people are searching for many ways to reduce their greenhouse gas footprint. And what people like generally, the value proposition and why we have such high customer retention and why so many of our customers are on the 100% renewable energy plan is that it's a pretty simple and relatively affordable way of personally contributing to the decarbonization of the system. You don't have to become a vegetarian. You don't have to, ride a bike or even buy an electric car. Or it's relatively simple, and that's why I think many cities themselves have embraced CPA. We have 35 communities now in CPA have embraced that because it doesn't require huge lifestyle changes. It doesn't require big investments by a city. It's as easy as making that switch.
Yeah, no, that's great. So I think from what I've understood, please correct me if I'm wrong, Ted, there's a difference between green and renewable. Can you maybe talk to that a little bit so we can get some clarification on that?
Renewable energy is actually, there's a legal definition of it in California. And what the difference is that we call green energy basically anything that is zero or very, very low carbon. Renewable energy is just solar and wind and geothermal and biomass and small hydroelectric projects. Things that don't meet the legal definition of renewable that might be green are large hydroelectric dams like the Hoover Dam or the Oroville Dam, which have their own negative environmental consequences, even if they're zero carbon, because we know dams have trouble. And so I don't think from a consumer perspective, you need to worry too much about the difference between the word green and the word renewable. They're pretty interchangeable, but then when we get into sort of legal definitions, that's where the difference comes.
Okay. So Ted, we talked about the 35 communities that are currently part of the CPA, and thankfully, I think that it's great to see it continually expanding. You're bridging two counties, Los Angeles County and Ventura County, as you mentioned, and those are partnerships, right? And so when we talk about partnerships, and we talk about the city of Agoura Hills as one of those partners, I want to shed some light on on an opportunity that is coming up for the community, where the CPA is actually a big player in making sure that we continue to look for ways to go greener, be more sustainable. And can you talk about the project that is actually right here at the City of Agoura Hills Recreation and Event Center? So I'm going to pitch it to you that way, and maybe you can let the community know what's going on.
One of the key missions of Clean Power Alliance, beyond the broad decarbonization mission, is reinvestment back into our partner communities. And we do that reinvestment in two ways. We do it in a number of ways, but I think of it in two key ways. The first is directly with the customer. So I'll get to this wonderful facility in just a second, but since we were talking about affordability and rates and the customer, I want to focus on that first. So Clean Power Alliance has a number of programs that our customers can benefit from to further their decarbonization journey, but most importantly, lower their bills. So if you are willing as a customer, and I'll talk to the folks straight out there, if you are willing as a customer to actively engage in the management of your electricity usage, think about when you're running that dishwasher or dryer, think about when you're charging your electric vehicle. If you're willing to take on that task, we have programs that will help you reduce your bill. We will send you gift cards, we will give you bill credits, and we have a number of programs. And so that's part of that commitment to reinvest back into the community directly with our customers. So you can go to www.cleanpoweralliance.org and click on that programs page and see all of the different ways that we can help you lower your bill. So that's one way that we're reinvesting. The other way we're reinvesting is directly back into the 35 member communities. We're doing that in a couple of ways. The first way is, as you mentioned, we are providing for every one of our members a free solar plus energy storage backup power system for a critical community facility. So here in Agoura Hills, we obviously identified this community center and area as a place where if the power goes out, you have a bunch of important operations here, both for the city itself, but this is also a place of refuge. If there is a disaster in this community, this is a place that people, whether they're called to or not, will congregate, will come for help. And we want to make sure that even if there's a wildfire or a public safety power shutoff or some kind of outage that impacts this community, there's a place where the electricity will stay on. And so Clean Power Alliance, through its purchasing power for renewable energy and battery energy storage, will be constructing a solar plus storage system on the roof of this facility, so that in a time, if the power goes out, both the city staff and the community members have a place to go where they could charge their phones, where they can stay cool, and where the city can continue to provide critical services to the community.
Yeah, well, and that's huge. That is such a big thing, and we are so grateful as a city to the CPA for that. That amazing partnership. I wanted to talk a little bit about, there was a news article I think I read back in November. SunZia, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right.
You're pronouncing it correctly.
Okay. So SunZia, a major, if not the largest, wind producer of energy, I believe there was a big partnership that was entered into with the CPA, and it made headlines. And so if maybe you could kind of talk to that and talk about, because it sounds like that's another partnership that's going to bring renewable energy to the vast source pool that the CPA has to be able to give all the residents, all your customers, not just residents, but all your customers, renewable energy. So if you could speak to that.
Yes, so we have this commitment to meeting the 100% renewable energy demand that our customers who are on that rate plan, as well as the lean power and clean power customers, get some renewables. So we have a large appetite to buy and deliver renewable energy to Southern California. And we do that by signing long-term contracts with renewable energy developers. And the Sunzia one was a wonderful opportunity to partner with a company called Pattern Energy on what will be the largest renewable energy project in the United States ever. It is larger than the Hoover Dam, just to give a sense of how much power and energy will come out of that facility in central New Mexico. I've been to the site. I'll say that the first thing when you go to that site that you notice is it's very windy. and you're like, okay, if I'm going to put some wind turbines up, this would be a good place to go. And the interesting thing about Pattern Energy is they're building a transmission line from central New Mexico all the way to very close to California, where it'll hook into the California electricity system. So we're very proud. We're going to be the largest purchaser of the largest renewable energy project in the United States when it comes online in 2027. That's just one project in our portfolio. We also have other wind projects, and we have many, many, many solar projects. Most of those, well, all of those solar projects are in California. So one of the things that, wind is sometimes hard to get in California, but solar, we're a sunny state with a lot of land. So we try to build all of our solar projects here in California because that's reinvestment back into the California economy and building up that green economy at a larger scale. The other thing I'll note, and people ask this all the time, well, what happens when the sun doesn't shine? What happens? How do we provide reliable electricity when the sun's not shining or the wind's not blowing? So we are very, very heavily investing in battery energy storage. So what that does is when the sun shines and the wind's blowing and there's excess generation, we charge those batteries. And the sun goes down and all the solar production falls off, and then we discharge those batteries to help keep the power going. So it's not just the generation and the renewable generation, but from a systematic perspective, we're also storing energy when it's cheap and clean and discharging it back when the grid tends to be more expensive and dirtier. So we're helping out on the broader scale with all of those battery investments as well.
Love that. So Ted, you are the CEO of the Clean Power Alliance, but you have a board, right? And I'm going to pull out something here. I have a prop. Okay. This is an issue from our early April Acorn, where you see that, people? I mean, this article right here, Lopez, new board chair at CPA. So we're very familiar with Ms. Lopez. She's obviously a council member here at the city of Agoura Hills. So I'm just, we have that commonality right there. She's one of your board members. She's one of our council members. Just curious as to what excites you most in being the CEO of the CPA and working with your new board chair, Ms. Deborah Klein Lopez.
Oh, we're so happy to have Deborah as our new board chair. One of the things that I think is so important for an organization, particularly a government organization, but any organization that has a board, is to have strong, effective, compassionate, thoughtful, intelligent leadership at that board chair level. And I think Deborah brings those qualities to the role. Deborah's story with Clean Power Alliance is kind of interesting. So Agoura Hills voted to join Clean Power Alliance in 2017 before she was on the city council. And she likes to tell the story, so I'll tell it for her. She was an active member in the community, clearly interested in environmental protection and sustainability. And she got a call from former State Senator Fran Pavley, who said, the city's thinking of doing this. I I think you should go and make public comment, and I think it's a good move for Agoura Hills, and a lot of other cities are doing it, Calabasas, Thousand Oaks, a lot of cities in the area. Why don't you go? And so she went as a member of the public in 2017 and spoke in favor of Agoura joining Clean Power Alliance. And then when she was elected, she immediately asked to join our board. So she was appointed then to the city to join the board, and quickly became part of our executive committee, became chair of the legislative and regulatory committee. And so she's bringing now, 6 years of experience to this role. And I think part of Clean Power Alliance's success over the last 6-7 years has been we've been blessed with good board chairs. We had Diana Mahmood from South Pasadena. Our immediate past chair is Julian Gold from Beverly Hills. People who are really committed to the mission and to the stability and the partnerships with the communities that CPA brings. So I'm just so excited to work with Deborah.
All right, so Ted, how can people keep up with the CPA? I mean, there's obviously so much great things that have happened, but there's so much more on the horizon left to come, I'm sure. So people want to keep up with the CPA. What's the best way to do that?
So you could sign up for our newsletter. You can follow us on whatever social media platform is your preference. We're on them all. And importantly, I think you can start to look at your bill. We have a message page on our bill where we give people updates about what's going on in their community with their rates, and start to maybe demystify a little bit of what's going on. So I think our newsletter, which is a monthly newsletter, you can go to the website and sign up. Again, it's www.cleanpoweralliance.org, and you can, right on the homepage, there's a click to sign up. Again, follow us on social media. But I think, there was a study done several years ago that said the average person in California engages with their electricity bill 7 minutes a year. So that's less than 30 seconds a month. Many people are on auto pay. And so what's happening there is you're susceptible to just hearing something or seeing that charge and wondering, is that too much? Is that too little? And I would encourage people to just spend maybe 14 minutes a year, maybe at least 1 minute a month, which is double the national average, with their electricity bill, and just beginning to learn what's going on. Because in these times of rising prices, it's good to have the information directly from the source.
All right, well, listen, Agoura Hills, what can I say? We're so grateful to have Ted Bardacke stop by his favorite city to talk about the CPA. I mean, it's amazing things left to come. And, you heard it right there. I mean, go in there, sign up right now, take a little extra couple seconds to look at your bill, understand what you're paying for. Knowledge is power. So really appreciate you, obviously, for tuning in, and appreciate you, Ted, for seriously taking the time out of your busy schedule to be here and to talk to all of our residents and customers and whatnot. So thank you so much.
Always happy to do it.
Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate you taking the time to be a part of your favorite podcast once again. And until we see you next time, keep living the good life
in Agoura Hills.
Take care, everybody.
That's great.
All right. Yeah, I really appreciate you being here. Seriously. Yeah, that's awesome.
Catch up on previous episodes at agourahillspodcast.com and hit that like button and subscribe to the Good Life Agoura Hills.